early on this patch. So we get the Wukong for 113 instead. Capushot will be picking the Nautilus for Hantera instead, which kind of still opens up for this window where he can guard the map and roam or play for the lane if that's what he wants.
No surprise to see that blind Ornn as well. We've spoken about how much priority LDLC have on that, having spoken to Yike. He just says they just think the champion is broken in comparison to a lot of other teams in the league. Would probably expect to see a jungle pick in as well, the Viego to match the Wukong. We've seen that as an answer quite often in the LPL. And we're starting to see what is being built by LDLC here in comparison to what Karmine Corp are trying to do.
I see 3 picks coming through for Reckless here. I think Ezreal, I think Twitch, or I think the Misfortune that we've seen him pivot onto so many times already. Fourth one could be Sire too, if that's what they're looking for. There's still a lot of AD options open, which means that they don't have to pick it now if they don't want to. But it looks like he's going to be defaulting onto one of the safe things we always see, which is the Ezreal or the MF, where it's like, all right, I know I'm going to be under a lot of aggression coming through from the opponent, but at least I'm going to be allowed to just soak up this pressure, play safe with the Arcane Shift, and allow Hantera to leave his mark on the map instead.
Yeah, and with mid lanes going to have to be blinded in this second, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them take away this Ari from Ica. We've seen him play 3 games of it so far, been rather impressive on it. Would obviously allow them to have a little bit more of a catching out option for them. Braum as well taken away.
That's interesting. Usually when you see an Ornn on the enemy team, you kind of want to be the one with the Braum for yourself. But I guess they just want to take away some of the disengage you have when you get an aggressive dive comp with the Wukong and with the Nautilus. Curious to see the top lane bans coming out here because traditionally speaking, K-Corp does save their last pick for Capushot. And that does leave open a lot of mid laners here for Forsaken to pivot to. There's even still the likes of Corki, if that's what he wants to go on to. There's good range. It pairs well up with the Ezreal. And of course, the one control mage he's super famous for has been taken away in the Azir, but that doesn't stop a Victor or Ariana from coming through either.
I think important to note as well with some of these top line bans we're seing from LDLC taking away that Gnar. The Gangplank is still available for Cabo. He could even go for a Fiora if he wanted to. Get out that side lane. It's really strong into the Ornn. But he has a wealth of options here. Whether or not they go towards that mid priority, like you said, with that top laner as well, it is going to be them getting that counter pick, and we're going to have to see some safer blinds from LDLC. The likes of a Scion still being available for. Sorry, what top lane's already been picked. The likes of. Ari's been banned. Help me out here, Corbo.
Okay, sorry, yeah, go for it. Okay, Gwen will be the champion that's left open. Of course, is that traditionally speaking, they save that top lane counter pick, but of course, it already came through in the first blue side rotation, so my apologies on that part. And it will just be the Gwen. Gwen already, as we saw earlier, does really well into these tank matchups. As soon as he hit that level 6, there's kill pressure, at least if there's a setup as well. But even after that, when you finally hit that first item spike, that's where you later on to the game will outscaling on side lane. So that gives you extra pressure on the map. And next, okay, covering the Draven, don't suspect we'll see it into the Ezreal. We already have a Seri as well. It could be flex, but the thing is, usually you pick Ezreal into Draven because you can kind of mitigate some of the aggression coming through from a Draven pick by just dashing back. But as you said yourself, Seri solo lane could come through, and on mid is also a thing. So on mid is something we've seen from Bisons as well in the LVP. So I take a lot of my inspiration from that because I love watching that draft. But we've also seen Seri mid. From another specific team that I actually can't remember. I know it's been played competitively too. But LDLC, we were talking about what is going to come through from that draft. Well, none of us could have predicted this.
No, definitely not. I really like the fact that, like we've said, and that's a spicy pick last to come out here. Saken here with the R5 Casio pick. What does this do in terms of options into the enemy composition? I feel like it has a lot of ability to kind of dissuade.
Quite honestly, the grounding is super OP against the team composition here. If Ornn starts ultimate and he's close to Casio, Casio can ground him with the Miasma. The same for stun for Yike. If he's moving in towards the Casio, will just give you some extra safety. If you opt in for Phase Rush as well, you can always just get out of the fight. Obviously, we sometimes see Conqueror 2 on Casio, especially against squishies like a Seri and like a Kalista. But it's also really good against the Kalista, who of course can't really get that jump through with her raw attacks when she's grounded. So Casio in this like short range composition, you get from the Kalista, you get from the Seri, super high value. And I actually have to see LDLC snowball just a little bit because the later this game goes, I can actually see K-Corp taking this. They outscale on side with the Gwen. Yes, there's a lot of AP value in the fact that you have 2 AP champions, but I think that's still good when you have a Wukong in the jungle that does so much damage, and the same can be said for Ezreal. If this goes super late game and they're even, I actually think K-Corp might take up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they just have to be forced into it. LDLC, we see them being rather a disciplined team, not being forced into too many options too much. But Karmine Corp now in a different position where we talked about how important it was for them to have teams to be able to get these early game advantages, but we're going to have to see what happens in this game in a few moments or so. I'm in. Welcome onto the Rift for your game of the week here in the LFL Super Week. Can LDLC round out their Super Week for a 3-0-9-0 round robin? And can Karmine Corp stand up to the absolute titanic overlords of the LFL at the moment? They managed to do it at EU Masters, Guldborg. Will they manage to do it today?
I think that's the question that has been on everyone's mind today, especially even just having a look at all the earlier games. Yes, they were entertaining, and I mean, especially the Vitality one. But in the back of my head, throughout the entire night, I was thinking about this matchup. I think it's one of the biggest clashes we have in France at the moment. And as you said yourself in the pregame, if LDLC manage to take this one, they secure the first half of the split completely undefeated with a 9-0 record, which would be quite impressive in the most stacked ERL across all of Europe.
100% agree with you there, Guldborg. I think interesting enough, out of the draft, we spoke about how our Karmine Corp going to show us something slightly different. I feel like with this Casio, with this Wukong, it's not quite the volley Jarvan style where they need to make something happen. Now the onus is more so, like you said previously, it's more so on LDLC to try and get an advantage with this Kalista pick in the bot lane. And we're seeing this shift now, and it's interesting to see. I thought that might be the case in terms of Karmine Corp flexing their muscles slightly in comparison to some of the other teams they played against.
Yeah, I'm actually quite curious to see it, because I thought the Seri into the Ezreal was actually just fine. You get free scaling into Ezreal, you can still play for the 2v2, and I thought they would come in with a mid lane pick afterwards, but it seemed like they want to keep the flexibility alive. That's what they did, but I think Saken dug deep in his champion pool and actually managed to find a pick that was going to be good against no matter who he was faced against of the three between Kalista, Seri, and Ragnar on their own, of course.
Yeah, completely. I think really good pick to bring out here on R5. Kind of gives a lot of answers in terms of that grounding. You spoke about that previously, how it can disable a lot of the composition. We do see some early aggression here. That is the interaction in the matchup we spoke about earlier on the day, Guldborg. That Nautilus hook being able to stop out that Zenith Blade. And in terms of the stopping power on this bot lane, we've spoken about how Karmine Corp, they utilize Reckless quite often as a nullifier. This lane, is it able to do that into a Kalista Leona?
I mean, I think it's definitely difficult. I think Reckless rather, will be put in a position where he will forfeit bigger waves if Pantera goes out for bigger roams, just due to the fact that Dusk can follow up a Zenith Blade, and they will actually, you know, follow along with the Arcane Shift because of how that interaction works. So if they roam too much with Pantera, yes, we'll end up in a situation where Reckless will either die for farm or he'll just be starved out of resources. But so far, they're doing just fine by keeping it safe in the 2 versus 2. Junglers are not mimicking their own pathing. K113 is pathing up towards the top side of the map, but don't expect too much action around the Ornn. I think he's just looking for a full clear into a topside scuttle crab to, you know, get as close to level 6 as possible. And from the side of Yike as well, I mean, not too much for him to really eclipse or utilize and equalize on the map at the moment.
We spoke about that constantly being the case on the day with the Wukong clear being nerfed this patch. Slightly slower now. I'm anticipating Yike moving towards this bottom scuttle now, probably getting a ward on that Gromp for that second camp respawn. We've seen him do it so many times this season. It's not going to be the case that they can find too much on the bot side. We'll see him probably move after that Rit Scuttle, get that ward down. See 113. Is he going to do the same? He has that
Actually,
ward.
not a full clear. So leaves open the Croxy, wants to continue with the timer, make sure that it's going to be just fine. And you're right, the ward did come down on Gromp here, which of course does give him some extra intel. But importantly to note, Yike didn't use a single one of his wards at all whatsoever. So he's actually been able to plan 2. But at the same time, 113 did back for the sweeper. So if it comes off cooldown and he spots out the bot side jungle here in his blue side, he should be able to clear him up. But of course, still a longer cooldown. So actually, just off the bat of the first 2 clears, way more information for LDLC with what Yike has been able to gather. Of course, if they see 113 on bot side, they know bot lane needs to play careful. If they don't see him on bot side, well then through process of elimination, they'll know he's on the top side.
Yeah, they do spot out Yike here, and see 113 as well. I think important to note, we spoke about it before previously, how LDLC have a certain amount of an onus here. Eldos is going rather aggressively here to make some of this wave not crash. He might have gone a little bit too far, has to flash out here. Ignite is burned by Hantera, but DOS really fancied his chances getting that wave away from the turret. I don't think Extra Kick's gonna congratulate him for too many favors there. Yike is here. His delayed is clear slightly, and I don't massively like this adaptation from Yike here. You can feel almost as if the onus is kind of beating down on him a little bit here. Isn't going to be opting into the full clear. Doesn't get much of a tempo advantage or utilize that extra seconds he bought from the pick. It's now going to mean that Wukong is kind of acquiesced that lead somewhat.
Yeah, but at the same time, Ragnar really needed a push out here. Ragnar was coming, or Cabochard was coming in with a stacked up wave. Didn't want to lose too much of it. Was afraid that he was in a threat of a dive since he hadn't recalled yet. Teleport is still active and available. So Ragnar, he's going to go for that recall now. He's going to TP back up. Actually, he's just going to hold on to it, but at the same time, its own doesn't really need to base to get items. Expecting Cabo to just either go in to get some vision, lay a recall, or just stay around. They got so much to play for. Cabo has already gotten that cheetah recall, and now with no mana, Ragnar not looking in the best situation, but I'm sure Cabochard can stop him.
Cabochard's going to keep him in lane for a little while longer. We see on the bot side, Yike and Co are taking that dragon. This is what we needed to see from them. We need to see them start to take these neutral objectives in the early game. This is your window as the Cassio starts to mount more and more so up. It's going to be a bit more difficult to play around these neutral objectives, so I think it's good that they're abusing that window right now.
Look at the vision
slight
control,
advantage.
I mean, you see the 3 ping wards right now, right? One towards the river across the mid lane, one right before you enter the blue buff, and then one at the bush next to the wolves. Once again, vision control to get this bot lane going is stellar. They play around it with the neutral objectives, and while they've not been able to get killed just yet, you can see the intent is there.
I actually like this adaptation from Yike as well, going and walking towards his Crocs before he does his Raptors. It's going to kind of offset the respawn timers for that third respawn, means he can maybe play towards the top lane in terms of, you spoke about previously how Ragnar's constantly needing his waves to get fixed. I feel like LDLC, before they reach this level 6 mark, not much needs to be done in the bot side around before this next dragon. They might have to be slightly careful with 113 coming on this wave state.
They know doesn't have that flash. Great hook from Hantera, but
it's a good hook from Hantera. 113's over the wall as well. DOS doesn't have flash. It's important to note here. Might be able to walk away here, but Hantera has flash. Going to be looking for a hook any second now. Heal is burnt, and they're going to be able to walk away from it. But the wave is still not in the greatest of positions.
But I love it. It's tit for tit, tat for tat. Here, like, you get a few summoner spells. You just expend some time. 113 now can go back, get his blue buff, pick up the grump afterwards. Still on vision, though. None of the pink wards has been cleared or spotted. Either way, though, you can see both teams, they're looking for the windows and they're trying to punish on them every time.
Important to note now is that Yike is going to be in this side of the map for around about when that Herald spawns. I think after it takes the Gromp, we'll be going towards that 8-minute mark. Obviously, 113 clearing up towards that as well. With the continuous pressure being generated in this bot lane, you can imagine with the Kalista and with DOS, reaching that level 6 mark soon, they should be able to keep Hantera in this lane and then go and secure that Rift Herald with the top lane camp still being available for Yike.
That's the thing, like, LDLC, they're so good. What just happened mid lane? Seiken still have flash, he still has the ghost? How has this happened?
That is incredible to see that. It's a shame that we didn't quite get to really run around the ramifications of what had occurred there, but it seems that Ike has so much damage coming out from that W113 over the wall now, and this gives Yike a bit of a window here. He's taken away that red, walks out, and just like that, LDLC take their advantages where they can find them and get a really big victory here.
How in the world did Ike manage this? Seiken has the ultimate, and while it says right here, maybe he didn't have the flash because in this replay it doesn't say it, but beforehand...
aggressively, it's a really bad ult from Seiken. The animation is already kind of gone the way, and he lands that extra W, just forced against the wall here. Doesn't really massively look like it hits here, but that's Zeri mid, guys. Yike is facing off against 113. They're going to have to flash away here. Ornol comes out. Ragnar needs to try and save. Needs to try and consolidate. They managed to do it so far, but the R2 coming out. Ike having a lot of damage here. He hits the blast going back over the wall here. Seiken's going big here. Doesn't have the summoners. Has the W out in response here. One more Q onto Ragnar. One more E. Does mean a 2-for-1 in the top side for Karmine Corp. They strike back.
Immediately Seiken comes through, and he did have all summoner spells. Wasn't just a buck there. And that is crucial after just being, you know, pushed out of lane in a 1v1 scenario from Ica. They pulled back the momentum. They stopped the neutral objective. And I was just about to commend LDLC from the rotation. The vision setup was so good, but Yike takes so much damage from 113, who just throws himself into the pit and then manages to find a team fight with the rest of his team.
Yeah, completely there. Obviously, the Rift Herald was being taken there, slightly dissuaded in terms of tempo. You thought after that mid lane kill, after that wave being kind of in a good position for the top lane, you'd be able to move in there freely. We spoke about how important it was that Exekick and DOS are able to keep Hantera in the bot side, but he roams up and it ends up being a fight that goes to favor of Karmine Corp. And now they're going to be the ones who get this Rift Herald.
Yeah, Hantera has roamed up as well. DOS is around the vicinity, but no one is really in a position to come in and contest this Rift Herald in itself. So, second neutral objective. DOS go over to the side of K-Corp. They answer back. They pulled themselves back a little bit into the game. And now they also have playmaking potential with some tempo advantages if Shelly were to be utilized somewhere on the map.
100%. You almost feel like with this Kalista pick in the bot lane, 15 CS lead or so, but that's to be expected. More needs to be taken advantage of by LDLC. They've kind of slowed down almost with that mistake being made now, and it's now they need to get their grips on this game, get back up on the horse now, and take control of it.
They might use their windows here. You can see now on the minimap, Saken's going to be forced back. He doesn't have any mana, and I think Yika actually stopped him as well. Yeah, but it's still potentially going to be the man deficit here, so I think Yike can look for it. He does have that smite too.
Might realise that DOS is here, yet Hantera might be getting a Zenith Blade to the face, doesn't quite manage to get engaged upon, but the Dragon has spawned, and Karmine Corp being forced out of their own quadrant somewhat now.
Alright, next Drake, I just don't see how K-Corp is going to be able to contest this one. Saken in the mid lane, his reset kept getting stopped by Iker. So he hasn't really got the items he really need. He's currently out of mana. Finally builds up that Leander's Torment, but it's too late now. Drake has gone over to the side of LDLC, so they keep the neutral objective stacking, at least on the Drake front.
See, a little bit of a shame that you would have preferred probably the Mountain Dragon or the Hextech Gate, just in Hextech Drake, in terms of what it could offer their composition. I think the Cloud Dragon, what does it really do for their composition? Is it that useful for them, Goldborg?
Listen. Last time you had to correct me because I said there is going to be the ultimate cooldown with the ability haste. This is not going to be the case now. But slow reduction, okay? Hear me out. Slow reduction against miasma from the likes of Saken, or just the, the ultimates as well, coming through from Capuchon, can actually be decently useful, and it can actually be the difference maker in terms of you not being grounded and being grounded. That's really what can turn a fight.
I think that's an important adaptation to bring up with the fact that we see this Cassio. Not a champion that we see very often, but with this champion coming through on that R5 being so important for Karmine Corp in terms of what they were rounding out their composition for, if LDLC, like you say, can build towards that, maybe it's going to give a little bit of stopping power towards that, because you spoke about how dangerous it can be.
Yes.
Boss has to flash away here.
Look at the difference in map right now. Towards the top side of the quadrant of the map, just red pink wards all over the way, lighting up the path. Down towards the bot side, it's LDLC who's got bot lane wards all over the place. DOS now, no flash.
Oh, DOS is there again, aggressively. Going to try and get over the wall here, but a lot of damage been done. Fate's Call is just about going to save him. DOS, you've got to be counting your lucky chickens. The extra kick is there to save you. Almost dead twice in a minute.
Yeah, still looking for a hook here, but now Hantera out of mana. Not much more to look for. We were talking about the bot lane matchup. We expected Exekick to get the lead. So far, he is a level ahead. But they've not been able to press charges any further than just the plating and some of the gold and experience through the farming from Exekick. This is on a ward. He could look to stop it again, and he does. It's actually quite crucial right now.
Cabochon getting engaged on Yike. Not going to burn the flash there to get over. They do get the ghost out there, but it is both the ultimates used by the top side members. You see continually Yike opting in to not necessarily play around this bot lane, devote more of his resources to the top side of the map, and a lot of that comes from that initial thing that we saw a couple minutes ago. We spoke about the adaptation, taking the Krogs before the Raptors. He's now been locked into a path that leads him away from that bot side. Now with Leona around the side here, Cabochon doesn't have ult or ghost. If Ragnar can lead him astray somewhat, they might set up for a dive, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
They can allow themselves to take some of the Camstone instead, and that's why it was so crucial that Exekick was actually stopping Hantera. It allowed DOS to get in tempo advantage, and now he's going to recall. He's going to move down towards the bot side. He's going to link up with Exekick once again, and while Hantera is making his move down there, actually no, DOS, he's decided to stay around top lane. They're looking for Capuchon.
I don't like this from LDLC. We're starting to see a little bit of panic from them that we haven't seen before. This team that is so known for being so disciplined, so well thought out.
Exekick in the bot side now alone.
Exekick now alone in the bot side, going aggressively onto Reckless, gets that E away. That over-aggression might have just about won him his life for a few seconds here, as Yike is barreling towards it, but Saken might make a move down towards the bot side as well. Seems to be the case that 113 and Co have called it off. Exekick with that aggression buys himself enough time here.
Yeah, luckily Yike is also making his way down there, but you're right, that could have been crucial. The fact that DOS decided to stay around on the top side, had the laners, or had 113 and Hentera been down bot side a little earlier to capitalize on the wave being pushed in, that could have been crucial. Yep, there we have it. That's crit Seri, but she's actually building AP at the same time. You're going to be in for some one-shots.
This AP Zeri thing, we saw MNS bring it out in the NLC most recently with the JDXL game. If you get to a point where you're above the curve, which he slightly is with that kill, obviously, as we see a fight here extend over a pink ward, you will get to a point where quite literally, Goldborg is not joking. You will eviscerate your enemies and look towards him. If he can stay in this game, stay a relative gold curve in comparison to Seiken, he will do so much damage to a lot of these champions.
You're saying relative right now. He's a level ahead. He's got not a farm advantage, but we know he's got the experience advantage. So this is looking super good. Continuously, he's the one pushing in Seiken as well. And it's quite annoying playing into an AP Sari because what they'll do as well is that they'll stand behind their tower if you're pushing them in. Your minion wave will line up on a line, and they'll just press the W and clear the wave instantly. It is so difficult to siege a Sari. DOS, still no flash.
Oh, DOS no flash here. Fate's Call is going to save him. Time and time again, it is the case. 113 does burn the ultimate there to try and bring him out.
But it's getting interesting. Soul Point is up for the cards now for LDLC, but at the same time, Rift Herald, the second one, will also be spawning. If Karmine Corp could secure the second one, mid lane turret would be sure to fall because they could just deploy it. It's already low after the first usage, but it doesn't look like they want to go for any crossbar, but it looks like they want to contest for the Drake.
Important thing to note here is that Ragnar is continually stopping Cabochard from basing here, cancelling out the base. The teleports aren't available for both of them. So if it does end up being a 4v4, it's a bit more of a contested affair here. You feel Karmine Corp already starting out. Doesn't feel like LDLC really able to have an answer here. They're just hesitant somewhat. Not able to go in. You can see 113 didn't even have the smite there.
That was so scary.
Miasma.
Still looking. W comes through. Nothing really hits here.
Oh, it's a counter engage onto Yike. He's going to get Nautilus ulted here. And it's just so bizarre to me. It feels like this is the first time we're seeing LDLC with these nerves, with this hesitation up against Karmine Corp.
Here's Capo.
Roamed down. DOS does not have flash here. He will not be having a Fate's Call to serve him this time. He's sent back to the fountain. An exit kick further might be in a little bit of danger here. Has the flash available. Going to have to dodge out. Got a little bit of space to work with here. But it is going to be that tier 1 bot lane turret getting brought to its knees here. Managed to get the Krogs, but have to suffer that wave not being taken. And LDLC are compounding upon their self-nerves and deprecation.
I genuinely can't believe that Karmine Corp decided to opt in for that Drake. 113 had no smite. And had... Oh, Seiken might be caught up here.
Oh, Seiken might be in a little trouble here. Doesn't have ultimate, does have flash.
That's big.
It's big from exit kick there. Big shutdown for him. A lot of gold now. They've got a bit of time to work with now. Ragnar obviously got that tier 1 turret. Gives them a little bit of space now. If they can look for a fight. We've seen so many times before LDLC. Give them an inch, they will take a mile. They can try and get this mid lane turret as the resets are coming out quite late. Doesn't seem like they're going to be able to go for it though.
They can try and get priority around the second Rift Herald here. There's still going to be 2 minutes and 40 seconds or 20 seconds before it really deploys into the Baron instead. But now with resets coming through, Karmine Corp, they can try and fight for some of that vision control. Seiken it up in less than 5-2. Once that's get active, maybe they're just going for it. Teleport advantage is in the favor of LDLC. Ragnar has 1-2. So there's a small window where Seiken is not going to be that they could try and contest, but it looks like the posturing from LDLC and the positioning of Execute down in that bot side means that they're not going to be contesting this neutral objective.
And this is really dangerous in terms of that mid lane turret. We've spoken about it so many times today, how important that is as that stronghold for some of these compositions. With the low range nature of Exekick, he's going to be hard pressed to find somewhere safe in this game going forward, to push out from that mid lane into that dragon area. And Karmine Corp are just finding options after options in terms of stalling out what LDLC have built in this early game.
Oh yeah, and I think like even crucially, the only reason the top turret went down is just due to the fact that Capo wanted to join in on the fight around that third Drake instead. So yes, they had to give up the first turret, but that first turret went over the hands of an Ornn. That's not going to be a high priority target that you're too scared of getting gold. Of course it matters, but not as much as if Exekick or Seri with Ike would have gotten it instead. So they're still looking fine. They have the Rift Herald too. They can deploy it in mid lane if they please. They can deploy it in top side. I still think mid lane is the best one to go for. It just opens up for more ways to play for side lane. Yike now looking for Seiken.
Might be in a little trouble now. They couldn't quite pull the trigger here. Take a look over at Ike now, having completed that Muramana Luden's Echo. Rift Herald does come out on the top side, but he's going to be a big one to watch for this next team fight in terms of some of the W amounts of damage he can do.
They're pinging for tier 2 here. Once they deployed this Rift Herald, they're actually pinging the tier 2 turret. I'm wondering if they want to bridge a mid lane priority into a topside dive here. You can actually see Hantera is moving up, so is Seiken. It looks like they're going to be putting multiple members up here. Ica is down towards the bot side, does not have that teleport. So this is going to be a 4 versus 3 situation on the top side.
I'm going for a hook here. They're going to try and commit towards the turret. You see Cabashard doing a lot of damage to it. Miasma comes out, and it's going to mean that that tier 2 turret does come out, and they're trying to find the fight afterwards. Nautilus ult comes out. Yike has to get out of there. Not managed to find too much more beyond that. You saw so much of the danger there. Exekit confused about whether the fight was being engaged on pin. Ragnar's found a counter engage here. Here comes Hantera. He's not taken out though. He goes into stasis. Yike off to the side. Needs to try and find a reset. He gets stunned up though. That's a great ult from Seiken that stops that from happening. Ragnar gonna get taken out as well. Cabashard is still going. Here comes Ica. Here comes
Ica!
This could be massive in terms of a turnaround. Here comes Ica and the Exekit. One more auto attack. They don't quite manage to find 113. Here comes Reckless, and in the queue over the wall now. It's a return in the sense they get 2 kills back. An equal affair, but 2 turrets in the top side. Karmine Corp Exekick over the wall. He gets taken out by a W from Ica with 45 seconds on the Drake now. They might be primed for the soul point.
Reckless had flash, but he just did not expect that damage to come through from the AP Seri build. It is disgusting. Took 50% of the HP of the Karmine Corp AD carry. They might not even be looking for Drake. They're teleporting in. They're going for the Baron, Jake.
They're going fully for the Baron here. They realise they don't have to play for that soul point. Why not just throw down the Gambit? And this could come back to bite them if 113 can find the Miracle Steal like he did 3 or so games ago. Yike, how are your fingers? Are they primed for the steal here to avoid it? 113, it goes ever so low here. And it goes in, they managed to get it. It's a 50 HP smite or so. 113's down. That's a reset for Yike. Cabashard doing a lot of damage here. Miasma dissuading somewhat. Exekick with the Dragon Spawn. Karmine Corp are forced to take the lesser of 2 options. They're going to have to try and take the Dragon now.
Oh my god, I can't believe what we're watching. What an incredible game so far. It's so close in between them. And Terra flashes forward. Yikes.
Swing and a miss there from Hantera as he flashes over, but a little bit more time now is bought. Look over at Ica. What kind of a W can he perform here? It does a lot of damage. It almost hits Seiken. Hantera doesn't have flash. And Ragnar's found 2 here. And they're caught up here somewhat. Reckless. He's into a W here as well. Yike has a reset. They might try and find Cabashard. Yike's over the wall here. Tries to get Cabashard. He gets him as well. And Terra will be routed. And just as you were confused at Karmine Corp managing to have an advantage in this game, they say the house that you built, KC, in recent minutes, it was built out of straw.
That's just not freaking fair. Did you see that damage? 75% of Reckless HP. He was out of the fight immediately. It's only going to get stronger. Seri is not okay. She is not okay. But LDLC, what a beautiful fight they set up, regardless of whatever champions they're playing. The on ultimate on towards multiple people. And this Seri W was so close to landing on Seiken. It's just outside of range. Had that connected, that might have been an even more disgusting fight we're going to watch. Look at Reckless. Look at Reckless HP. What am I watching? How is that legal? The fight then completely just turns over in the favor of Karmine, or LDLC rather. They're able to just split them apart and take care of the rest of the Karmine Corp members.
Yeah, completely. And Karmine Corp, as a team, you can see they're finding these macro engages that are beneficial for them. We saw that in the top side, but Ica doing so much on this pick, it really can't be expressed enough how broken this seems.
I mean, every time I'm watching that, I'm preparing for the worst. And the cooldown is so low as well. I think it's like a 7 or 8 second cooldown. Yeah, it keeps being up. Now on the top side, Baron up minions. Yike actually playing the rotation game here. They're playing on 2 lanes. They are under pressure from Cabashard on the bot side. No one is responding to it as of right now. I don't think they have to either. They're pushing in the mid lane now and look to push in the top side afterwards. It's still looking LDLC favored with the Baron buff.
Absolutely, it just feels like their lead has come out from absolutely nowhere. It was just seconds ago that they were staring down opposition in a 2-man, 2-tower take here. Seiken takes around 30% of his HP bar with 1 ability there. He's not able to do much with these miasmas to create that space because Zeri isn't going in close ever. Cabashard goes in now, having burnt the ghost now. Enormous ult is onto Exekick, Orn out in response here. 113 is trying to find it, but the Immortal Shield Bow has been propped. They found 2 here. That's a W. Here comes Yike, he flashes forward. He's going to try and find Reckless as well with the reset. Doesn't quite manage to do it. Another ultimate, but yet Seiken's kiting here. Doesn't have the ultimate available. This might just be the end here. This might just be LDLC taking revenge for their defeat at EU Masters. Do they fancy it? Do they have the gall? Do they have the balls to go onto the turrets here? It's Seiken against the world. Not many minions available here. Reckless as well, going to try and clear out these minions. They're going to just about manage, not quite, to get that Nexus turret, but it's very scary for a Karmine Corp fan in this area against Ica Zeri.
They've lost they've completely lost control and grasp of the entirety of the map here. Now LDLC with a 6k gold lead. Just before 5 minutes ago, we were talking about how there's only 1k being the difference in between them. And LDLC, they've just managed to accelerate the game. We're only 25 minutes into this one. They've already got the first Baron. They've broken open the mid lane inhibitor. There's 2 minutes onto them to be on Soul, despite Karmine Corp already having their Drake. So it's not even just 4 in a row we're getting this early Soul. It's just been because the objective has been stacked so early while the game started. Now, mid lane inhibitor is down. That's a great luxury. Kind of a guy leading the super minions into the base all the time. That would be a pressure point that Karmine Corp needs to respond to. While they're responding to that pressure point, you move down with the rest of your team to move in on the last turrets that you want to take care of. For Karmine Corp, this is going to be so difficult for them. And even more so because they're going to be on the siege from a Seri.
Absolutely, we spoke about previously how important it was for Karmine Corp to get towards this later game, how the onus was on LDLC to make things happen. It almost feels like we've made a mistake here, Gulbo. We haven't quite equated to the absolute equator that has been meteored into the skull of Karmine Corp with this mid lane Zeri pick. It is dropping absolute nuclear bombs at the rate of knots here, and LDLC are priming on the base here with the mid lane inhibitor taken. They're trying to take more here. Reckless has 80% of his HP bar burned just with one ability.
That's just not fair. This sieging is insane and the cooldown is just barely 4 seconds. He keeps using it. They can't defend this turret. Look at this.
Warnolt comes out in response. Reckless is off to the side. It only lands onto Cabashard for now. That's a W that does 30-40% of Cabashard. That's your frontliner, and he has been tackled to the ground.
Now, bot lane inhibitor still waiting for the minions to come in. Mid lane inhibitor being pressure point here. Baron is up again in just a few is in just under 1 minute. The same can be said for the Soul, 30 seconds. So LDLC, they decide to take their time here. They're in no rush whatsoever. They enjoy the scaling aspect of their composition too. Ornaments have started to come through. You see the damage from Ica. Karmine Corp, they're feeling desperate. They want to see if they can catch someone off guard. Maybe they can fight Ica, but he's just dashing out of there. Seri, the mobility, the damage, and Tara flashing forward.
Sarah. Misfire again, but they've circled him. Ultimate comes out to Yika. The rest of LDLC need to commit to a decision here. Will they try and save Yika? Will they go for the Soul? He's battled a lot of time here. He's over the wall now. They've not managed to do it, and Karmine Corp are trapped in the jungle here. Execute goes into his Immortal Shield Bow, goes into a stasis. Doss is around the side now. They found Cabashard. Ornn is going big here as well, and Terra gets taken out. Reckless gets routed. And the ornaments have dismantled the mantelpiece of Karmine Corp as LDLC, they're teleporting into the base. They're teleporting up to 9-0. The round robin dream destiny has been completed.
It looked close for a moment. It really did. But LDLC, as soon as we hit that 20-minute mark, were relentless. They did not hold back. We said maybe they needed the Baron again. Maybe they needed the Cloud Soul to come through. Neither of that was needed. Just one good team fight with Ica baiting them all in. Hook, line, and sinker. LDLC, they take this matchup.
Wow.
I mean, that was such a fun game. Like, this really delivered. This cannot be understated how entertaining this game was. It ended up being a stomp in the late game by LDLC, but it was so close in the early game. They kept trading sides of the map. They kept going for different objectives. They kept finding fights. Both of the teams went back and forth, and then